Stop, don't skip this. In the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how one man, a single human being, stole $65 billion from thousands of innocent people. I'm going to show you how he fooled the FBI, not once, not twice, but multiple times. How the world's smartest investors, banks, hedge funds, celebrities, charities, all handed him their life savings and never saw a single dollar again. I'm going to show you the one person who figured it all out years earlier and was completely ignored. I'm going to show you the moment Bernie Madoff's own sons called the FBI on their father. And I'm going to show you what happened inside that courtroom when the full scale of the crime was finally revealed. This is not a story about Wall Street. This is a story about trust, about greed, about how the most sophisticated financial system in the world was brought to its knees by one man's lies. If you are new to DocuVault TV, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications. And if this story shocks you, hit like and share it, because the story of Bernie Madoff is one that every single person on this planet needs to know. Let's get into it. Bernard Lawrence Madoff was born on April 29, 1938 in Queens, New York. He grew up in a modest Jewish family in a working-class neighborhood. Nothing about his childhood suggested he would one day become the most notorious fraudster in American history. He was smart, ambitious, determined. At just 22 years old, Bernie Madoff founded his own investment firm with just $5,000 he had saved from working as a lifeguard and sprinkler installer. $5,000. That company would one day claim to manage $17 billion in assets. Bernie Madoff was not just another Wall Street guy. He was a pioneer. He helped build the NASDAQ stock exchange. He served as its chairman not once, not twice, but 3 times. He was respected, admired, trusted. When Bernie Madoff said your money was safe, you believed him. And that trust is exactly what he used to destroy thousands of lives. Here is how the greatest financial fraud in history actually worked. Bernie Madoff told his clients he was using a sophisticated investment strategy called split strike conversion. He promised them steady returns of around 10 to 12% every single year. Rain or shine, bull market or bear market, it didn't matter. Your money would always grow. That promise alone should have raised red flags, because in the real world of investing, nobody guarantees steady returns every single year. Nobody. But people didn't ask questions, because the returns were real. Every month, clients received their statements. Every month, the numbers went up. What they didn't know was that Bernie Madoff was not investing their money at all, not a single dollar. Instead, he was taking new investor money and using it to pay existing investors their returns. This is called a Ponzi scheme, named after Charles Ponzi, who ran a similar fraud in the 1920s. But what Bernie Madoff did made Charles Ponzi look like a small-time street hustler. For decades, new money kept coming in. Celebrities invested, charities invested, European banks invested, Steven Spielberg invested, Kevin Bacon invested, Elie Wiesel, Holocaust survivor and Nobel Peace Prize winner, invested his entire foundation's money, and every single one of them lost everything. Here is the part of this story that will make your blood boil. Bernie Madoff was not as untouchable as he appeared. There was one man who figured it out. His name was Harry Markopolos. He was a financial analyst from Boston who was asked by his firm to replicate Madoff's investment strategy in 2000. Within 4 hours, he knew something was deeply wrong. He said, "I was able to reverse engineer his strategy in 4 hours. I knew he was a fraud within those 4 hours. It took me 5 minutes to know it was a fraud and another hour to prove it." Markopolos submitted a detailed 23-page report to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, in May 2000. He laid out exactly how Madoff was running a Ponzi scheme. He warned them. The SEC did nothing. He submitted another report in 2001. Nothing. Another in 2005. He handed them everything they needed on a silver platter. The SEC investigated briefly and cleared Madoff of any wrongdoing. Harry Markopolos later testified before Congress. "I gift-wrapped this case for them and delivered it to their doorstep, and they still didn't act." The system that was supposed to protect investors had completely failed. For decades, the scheme held together. But in 2008, the global financial crisis hit. Markets crashed worldwide, and suddenly, everyone wanted their money back. Clients began requesting withdrawals totaling $7 billion, but Bernie Madoff only had $200 million left. The math was impossible. The house of cards was collapsing. On December 9, 2008, Bernie Madoff sat down with his two sons, Mark and Andrew, who both worked at his firm. He told them everything, that the investment business was one big lie. His sons were completely blindsided. They had no idea. That same night, they called a lawyer, and the next morning, they called the FBI. Bernie Madoff's own sons turned him in. On December 11, 2008, federal agents arrived at Madoff's luxury penthouse apartment on the Upper East Side of Manhattan. They asked him, "Is there an innocent explanation for all of this?" Bernie Madoff looked at them and said, "There is no innocent explanation." He was arrested immediately. The scale of what he had done was almost impossible to comprehend. $65 billion, 37,000 victims in over 100 countries, charities that had to shut down overnight, elderly people who lost their entire retirement savings, families destroyed, lives ruined. Elie Wiesel, the Holocaust survivor who had invested his foundation's entire $11 million, said publicly, "We gave him everything we had. He knew that this is money of Holocaust survivors. He stole it anyway. I would like him to be in a solitary cell with only a screen where he has to see the faces of his victims one by one." In June 2009, Bernie Madoff stood before Judge Denny Chin. He read a prepared statement. The judge was not moved. He sentenced Bernie Madoff to 150 years in prison, the maximum possible sentence. Victims in the courtroom stood and applauded. The numbers tell one story, but the human cost tells another. Mark Madoff, Bernie's son who turned his father in, never recovered from the public humiliation. On December 11, 2010, exactly 2 years to the day after his father's arrest, Mark Madoff hanged himself in his New York apartment. He was 46 years old. His 2-year-old son was asleep in the next room. Bernie Madoff's other son, Andrew, died of cancer in 2014. Bernie Madoff himself died in prison on April 14, 2021. He was 82 years old. He never saw freedom again. The $65 billion was never fully recovered. And the question that haunts financial regulators to this day, how did this go on for over 20 years? How did the most sophisticated financial regulator in the world miss something that one analyst figured out in 4 hours? The answer is uncomfortable, because sometimes people see exactly what they want to see. And Bernie Madoff knew that better than anyone. Bernie Madoff stole $65 billion. He destroyed 37,000 lives across 100 countries. He fooled the FBI. He fooled the SEC. And he did it all with a smile and a handshake. The lesson of Bernie Madoff is simple. If something sounds too good to be true, it always is. Always. If this story opened your eyes, please hit the like button right now. It takes just 1 second, and it helps this channel reach more people. Share this video. Subscribe right now. Every week, we uncover a new story that the world needs to know. And speaking of stories the world needs to know, next week on DocuVault TV, we leave the world of Wall Street and enter the world of blood, power, and cocaine. Imagine escaping from 2 maximum security prisons, including one time through a mile-long tunnel dug directly beneath your cell, complete with a motorcycle on rails. This is the true story of Joaquin Archibaldo Guzman Loera. The world knew him by a different name, El Chapo, the most powerful drug lord in human history. Next week, DocuVault TV. You do not want to miss this one. Hit subscribe right now. Turn on notifications. Drop a comment below and tell me what shocks you more, Madoff's $65 billion theft or El Chapo's $8 billion empire. Comment below, like and share. See you in the next episode. The darkest stories are just beginning.